Hi, my name is Max Vulasevic, and I want to give you a quick run-through of my course, Skills for Success in Finance and Economics. When you first register for the course, you will come to this landing page for Oxbridge School. Your course will be listed on the left-hand side, so let's dive in there. So if you look at the overview of the course, it consists of the course introduction, student resources, the various units, and that you're invited to do during the course. So let's go through these elements in turn. In the course introduction, there is a little bit about myself, but more importantly, how the course is taught. This course integrates teaching English and finance and economics, so it's a content and language integrated learning course, i.e. CLIL. You can find out more about it here. For those of you who are theoretically minded, there's a detailed syllabus and a detailed description of how the course was constructed. The overall view of the course can be found here in terms of the detail for the various lectures and what types of exercises are within those lectures. And then you can also find an overview of all of the units, the number of lessons there, and how it's suggested that these lessons are organized over the course of semesters. So throughout the course, there is a lot of emphasis on students engaging, and a little note here about expected to do in their forum discussions. If we go further to the student resources page, this course has a plethora of online resources that students are encouraged to use. They relate to their learning of the English language itself, but also economics and finance. So there are informational resources here, but also you will find that there are tools that students are taught how to use during the course so that they could utilize them to practice their communication skills mainly. And there's also tools related to group activities for like project planning, brainstorming, for collaborative work on data collation and document sharing, presentation tools, even artificial intelligence tools, and that they're encouraged to use in their research and when they learn the language. So these are the online resources. There's also quite a long list of various books that students are encouraged to peruse. Perhaps some of them they will find of interest. They relate to economics, economic history, and they are not taught during the they're not included in the course curriculum, but perhaps they will engage the students and encourage them to immerse themselves into further learning of the language and economics. What's probably more important for students, even more important, is how they're going to be graded. The course is very much aimed at continuous assessment, so there are homework assignments after each lesson. So there are 40 of these homework assignments during this course, which grades for which comprise 50% of the overall course grade. Students are very much encouraged to participate in forums, and for that reason, a part of the grade is dependent upon their level of activity and discussion in the forums. There are various projects that students will do during the course of the various units, and they comprise 15% of the course. And finally, there are the good old-fashioned tests that test both their knowledge of English and their knowledge of economics that they've picked up. The courses, provides information for how students should study, which tools they should use. So there are a couple of notes here about useful skills that they should pick up for note-taking, which is applicable not for this course, but just in general. There is some methodological notes on learning new vocabulary, and notice how many different links there are throughout all of these pages, which direct students to further resources. For example, here there's a resource where they can test the level of their vocabulary. We think that this level of overabundance of information and additional resources will keep the students very much engaged. And with tons and tons of additional resources, that will keep them learning. So
the
let's
language.
dive into Unit 1 so I could show you the examples of lessons and the homework assignments within each unit. Here you can see in Unit 1 there are 9 lessons. You can use the course introduction as lesson 1 to familiarize the students with the course and how it's structured and all of the tools available to them. In the practice session, there will be the forums, which I will talk about later, where the students need to interact quite a lot between each other. And in additional materials, there's a bibliography. Practice also has an end-of-unit test. So let's dive into lesson 1. We start off with can-do statements. It effectively familiarizes the students with what they should expect to find in the lesson, the type of exercises, and the type of information that they will find. The chat function effectively doubles what is typically available in conferencing facilities such as Zoom or Yandex Telemost. But in this case, you are able to save the chat without necessarily saving the Zoom recording. So in lesson 1, you can see that it's structured as a quiz. The reason for that is because there are a lot of automatic checking exercises in each lesson. Each lesson will typically start with some sort of a prompt to get the cognitive thinking going for the students. Sometimes it's pictures, sometimes it's videos. In this case, the video is in the second task. You will notice when we play this video in a second that it uses authentic materials. The content, words and expressions that we would like the students to pay particular attention to are noted in the course material, and then they can use these expressions to help them with the task that's given to them. In this case, they're asked to write down in their own words, i.e. paraphrase, what they have heard in the video about the key benefits of a free market economy.
Adam Smith was born in 1723 in the small seaside town of Kirkcaldy, Scotland, where he learned about morality and economics.
The videos typically are reasonably short, in this case less than 4 minutes, so that it can be watched during the video and they do not interfere with the overall learning process. Next exercise, in this case, we see that there's another prompt for discussion. In fact, all of the lessons continually prompt, give information so that students can absorb the language and try to reproduce something themselves that is similar to what they're hearing or reading in the exercises here. This poster is one of the ones that is published by Reload. I quite like them, and you could buy paper copies which look like this. And it's a series, or there's a variety of other posters that you can also find at the Reload shop. But this is what this serves is ability for them to find some additional information that they do not know about and prompt them to talk about something that they feel comfortable with. These are the automatic checking exercises that I mentioned. These are really simple ones where we're introducing them to some basic economic vocabulary, which is then used in the text that they're asked to read below. This is another form of automatic checking exercises, true or false questions. The other thing that lessons do a lot of is they try to build their linguistic range that students have. We appreciate that they already have B1 to B2 level of English, but still their ability to use signposting language, to incorporate what they have just read into their own active vocabulary is important. So these types of exercises that here, for example, we're using phrasal verbs and other expressions from the article. Here we're asking them to paraphrase, which is an important skill. These types of exercises provide them with a scaffolding as part of the CLO course to get them to start talking. Another really good example of how scaffolding is used is a sequence of exercises that we have at the end of lesson 1 here. We ask students to read a very short introduction of what is the theory of moral sentiments, just to give them a very basic idea. They can do a little bit more digging, read an article, or two. These are actually links to websites, so that might not be what the teacher want to spend time on during the course, but at least the articles are easily accessible. They jot down their thoughts, and then they can listen to a dialogue. So this engages their listening comprehension skills and putting into practice how a theory of moral sentiments can be encountered in our daily lives. So then, once they've listened to this dialogue, they ask to role play, effectively mimicking the dialogue that they have just heard, but doing it in their own context. They're given a scenario, and also they're given a scaffolding language, a signposting language in terms of the phrases that will be useful for them to learn. So this is how typically lessons are structured, although lessons are very, very varied in the way that materials that are presented, what the students are asked to do. At the end of the lesson, the teacher may run through the homework assignment, which is always related to what the students have done during class. And what also is important is that these homework assignments continue developing their communication skills. Quite a few homework assignments require students not only to sort of get some information, in this case via an audio or internet research, in English obviously, but also then to probably jot down notes that will enable them to record an oral report. So their communication training continues even outside of the classroom. They keep being required to talk and talk. And a lot of exercises that they have done, once they have done them, they need to share with their fellow classmates. And that happens in the forum. So in the exercise that I showed you just now, the homework assignment for lesson 1, there wasn't a requirement to post something in the forum, but majority of the time there would be. So for example, for lesson 2, students would be required to post a short essay that they wrote that is either for or against mercantilism, and also comment on any interesting ideas that they have seen in the other essays of their classmates. So this is part of their assessment, and we're getting them to interact on the platform and talk about economic terms in chat form. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is probably the test. The test is done as an actual quiz this time. It tests students' economic terms and expressions knowledge. Then we've got a reading comprehension test, which is based once again on authentic materials. You're asked to go onto a particular website. This is a TED-Ed article, and they're asked to answer true, false, or not stated questions. There's a listening comprehension test. This is also based on an actual news report from CNBC, I believe.
We have new developments tonight on an issue that's hitting all of us hard right now.
Inflation.
So this is the exercise where they are required to pick up this particular sentence and what is the word that fits from the report that they will have heard. If there are two words, that there's two gaps to make it reasonably straightforward for them to complete. Speaking test also goes back to what they're required to do, to talk in a professional language about economics. They will record on the platform their answer. They're limited to 5 minutes maximum because the platform simply won't allow them to record anymore, and they need to explain, in this case, the graph for supply and demand for hamburgers. The writing test also combines what they've learned in economics about Giffen goods, which is the topic of lesson 9 in Unit 1. And finally, there's an automatic checking exercise for economic concepts test. It's worth noting that teachers of this course do not necessarily need to have excellent knowledge of economics, because a lot of the exercises are either automatically checked or teachers are provided with oral answers that they can refer to prompt the students, and these answers are not visible to the students themselves. So the final part that I wanted to show you is the projects element. There's a project associated with each unit. I'm not going to go into the detail because the projects are detailed, but they are very well thought out and described to the point of what the stages of the project completion are. And of course, all of them are team-based projects. Once again, we're encouraging a lot of interaction between students working together. This is all I wanted to share with you about the course. I hope you enjoyed this summary. Thank you.